Hello, and welcome to another episode of Casual Learning. I'm your host, John Bannan. What's the deal with the argument from composite parts? The argument from composite parts is a cosmological argument for the existence of God. Uh, it's a fairly simple argument, uh, and I'll explain it to you. So, the first, uh, the first line of the argument is all composites are caused by their parts. Now, what's a composite? A composite is something that's made of parts. So any composite, because it's made of its parts, must be caused by those parts. The composite's existence is dependent upon those parts. If it didn't have the parts, it wouldn't exist. Therefore, the parts cause the composite's existence. So all composites are caused by their parts. The second statement, more than a single part is a composite. Uh, Composites are made of parts. So anything but a single part must be a composite, or a composite of parts. The third statement, that single part which causes all composites must be an uncaused non-composite, because nothing comes from nothing. So ultimately, all composites can be traced back to a single uncaused non-composite, which causes all other composites. And the reason for that is because nothing comes from nothing, or that classical ancient truth, ex nihilo fit, or ex nihilo nihil fit, which translates to nothing from nothing, or you can't get something from nothing. So, because all composites are made of parts, those parts, if there's more than one of them, is itself a composite, which must therefore be caused by a lesser number of parts. Eventually, you have to reach a single part, which itself is not a composite and which is not caused, because you can't get something from nothing. So it's an uncaused, singular, non composite part. It's not actually a part because it's not a composite, it's not part of something. But for simplicity's sake, I use that term. But essentially, it's an uncaused, uh, non composite, singular, uncaused, non composite. Fourthly, we call that uncaused, non composite God. So the idea of the argument from composite parts in terms of a cosmological argument for the proof of the existence of God essentially says that all things are composites. They're made of parts. The parts cause the composites, but those parts themselves formed composites, which are also caused. So the parts, you must eventually reach a singular non-caused or uncaused non-composite that causes all other composites, because something can't come from nothing. So you can't get composites from nothing. Nothing can create composites. So something has to create composites. But all composites are themselves created by their parts. So you have to arrive at a cause, which is a singular uncaused non-composite that is responsible for the creation of all other composites, all other parts of composites, and all other composites. Um, so by process of deduction and elimination, you essentially have to um, arrive at a single part in order for any composites to exist. And all existence, material existence, is created of composites, or things that are made of parts. So essentially, it all has to be created by a singular, uncaused, non composite, because you can't get something from nothing. Now, it's interesting. Um, if you think about the Big Bang and the idea that all the universe derived from a what we call a singularity, uh, that's exactly what's going on here. The universe is a composite of parts, and the universe is full of composites, which are made of parts, and those parts themselves are composites made of parts. But you eventually have to have a singular uncaused non-composite that causes all the other parts that create all the other composites. And isn't that exactly what the Big Bang singularity is? It's a singular uncaused non-composite created all the parts that are necessary for all the composites in our universe. So the singularity itself is an infinitely dense, essentially, point of parts. But there was something that caused that to begin. And you see how the singularity is a compression of parts. So it's getting closer and closer and closer to that singular uncaused non-composite, which causes the singularity's existence. So the Big Bang is really a pretty clear demonstration of the proof of this. This is logically true, and as far as scientific evidence goes, we also have the Big Bang, which seems to be doing exactly what this is saying. So the Big Bang was created by God, and we call this singular uncaused non-composite God. Uh, so anyway, there's another cosmological argument for you to think about. It's the argument for composite parts. In other words, the argument for the existence of God from composite parts. And it's a fairly simple argument. It makes a lot of sense. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below. Please press the subscribe button. I appreciate it. And you know, I hope you understand this argument. It's a fairly simple argument, and you can. It's just another way of looking. The cosmological arguments are often different ways of arriving at the same conclusion, which is that God exists based on reality and what we can infer from reality. Cosmological arguments are really they're really circumstantial evidence for the existence of God, and they're based on the existence of the universe and what we see going on in the universe, which is circumstantial evidence that a God must exist. Uh, and they all have similarities but differences, different ways of looking at sort of the same circumstantial evidence and the inferences you can draw thereon from pointing towards the existence of God. All right. Take care, everybody.